invited you, the members, to ask the IOSH President anything. And I'm delighted to welcome IOSH President Kelly Nicoll back into the studio to answer these questions. You're very brave, I have to say.
Bring it on, Kelly.
We had lots of questions sent in. Many of them were actually about membership and qualifications. So we're going to run through those in today's episode, if that's all right.
Of course.
So our first question is on professional membership statuses, such as Tech IOSH and Certs IOSH. As someone with a degree in events and risk management, over 20 years of experience handling risks, civil contingencies, emergency planning, major events, crowd safety, they also hold a NIBOSH General Certificate. Mm-hmm. They still find themselves needing a specific qualification to achieve Certs IOSH status. And this journey has then led them to undertake a level 6 MVQ, but for them it raises a bigger question. Do current membership criteria risk undervaluing diverse professional experiences and broader academic backgrounds in favour of these rigid qualification lists?
I think that's a really interesting question. And I think there is an absolute balance now. So you have the slightly more traditional academic route where you do your kind of NIBOSH diploma or your IOSH level 6 or kind of a degree in occupational, specifically in occupational health. And that is a very clear and direct route through certified membership. I keep wanting to call it grad.
No.
And that is a considerably more traditional route. IOSH now has an experiential route that is available where you can go to IOSH and say, this is my CV, these are the qualifications I hold, this is the experience I've got. And there is a route through. So there is absolutely a recognition that not everybody gets those qualifications. Not everybody needs those qualifications in order to be able to do this job. Health and safety is incredibly diverse, as it should be. And academia is not for everybody. That's why we do have MVQs, we have, diplomas, we have degrees, and people learn, an awful lot of people learn it on the job. So for me, there is absolutely that route to be able to go through that experiential route rather than having to necessarily force yourself through a diploma or a degree that is literally a tick box exercise in order to get that membership level for IOSH.
Is that a relatively recent thing?
It is relatively recent. I think it's only been out for a few years. Yeah. And we asked, but I think it was, in fact, November 2023. So yeah, it's kind of a year and a half. And we are starting to see people progress through that route now. It's not easier. It's still rigorous as it should be. But it is a different route through.
Excellent. The same member has actually got a secondary question on that. How do we strike a balance between maintaining high standards, a bit like you were just saying at the end there, and recognising the value of real world experience and transferable skills?
We do that through Blueprint and our CPD. So continuing professional development is split into, there's different areas that it absolutely focuses on. So we have our technical knowledge, and we have our transferable skills. So there are lots of transferable skills that go into health and safety. Listening, coaching, communication, delivering training, being able to assess risk. Like all of those are really transferable. And, I came from an acting background.
Did you?
I did.
I didn't know that.
Did you not? No, I went to drama school. And
we have seen you in anything?
Probably not. No, I was... No, you'll have seen some of my friends much more than me. But yeah, there's lots of things in that were completely transferable, like improvisation and making dynamic assessments, it sounds really strange, but when something goes wrong on a stage, you don't have time to sit and you've got to do that assessment very quickly in your head and change the dialogue or change what you're doing in order to cover that up. Or it's the squeaky door thing where actually you then acknowledge it and make a joke of it and move on. But that thinking on your feet is absolutely important within health and safety, being able to pivot, being able to make those changes whilst things are already going on or things are going wrong. Even the ability to stay incredibly calm in a crisis is essentially important for what we do. And not everybody has that. And that certainly doesn't come out of an academic qualification. And I think the thing that excites me about the new blueprint, it's not really new anymore either, but the blueprint 2.0 is that it acknowledges all of those kind of softer, I hate soft, those kind of leadership and transferable skills that, aren't the, quick, what's the management regs say about this? What's the asbestos regs and all of that? That stuff we now, we can Google that stuff. I don't need to remember.
Or ChatGPT.
Yeah, other AI platforms are available, I hear. But yeah, and that's the joyful thing about it is, and I think it is that element of actually one of the things that I love about IOSH is the network that you build. So, in the presidential team, if I'm struggling with an event, I will go to Doc, because Doc is the absolute guru of all things event safety.
That's Richard Bate for our listeners. Yes. He's the president-elect.
He's affectionately known as Doc because if you've seen Back to the Future, it becomes very evident. If I want to remind myself about something to do with asbestos or have something really quirky around asbestos, I'll go and talk to Michelle Stonley. If I want to talk about occupational health, I'll go to David Arku, otherwise known as Triple D. Like the Building Safety Act, I go to Dr. Sean Lundy without a question.
Yeah.
And if they don't know, or the people within my network don't know, they will know somebody who will.
Yeah.
And I think that's the joyful thing is you get very comfortable within health and safety actually saying, actually, I don't know, but let's go and find out together. And I think being comfortable in that allows us to learn an awful lot more and being open to learning. My CPD last year was filled with Ted Lasso episodes because it's all about coaching. It's all about coaching and leadership and those kind of softer skills that we haven't necessarily seen before. So yeah, it was literally like I've watched half an hour of Ted Lasso and this is what I've gotten out of it and this is what I'm going to take into my career and into my profession now.
You should have been in our unusual CPD activities. We didn't quite cover Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso. I bang on about that an awful lot now. I genuinely think it should be mandatory for health and safety professionals.
I haven't seen the series, but my son's young friend from primary school is in it.
Oh, really?
Which is really cool. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
No, it's if you want to learn about coaching and how you lead, how you bring people with you, like it's beautiful and heartwarming, and that is absolutely the place to go and check it out.
Love that. And I love how you explain about the transferable skills, because I guess health and safety is one of those professions actually where that lends itself really well, doesn't it? More so than, say, accounting or other professions. Health and safety with the transferable skills and what you do in your own time as well. Going back to one of the previous episodes, that really helps, doesn't it?
Of course it does. And, health and safety is in every single industry. We can't all be great at great and knowledgeable at every single thing. I remember talking about it with you guys when I first became president and all the different industries that I've worked in. And that was intentional because you learn different things from different places and different industries are doing things in a different way or they're doing it in a slightly better way. But you can take that learning from the construction industry and apply that to the leisure industry. You can take learning from the railway industry and apply it to the NHS. There's so much of it that you can chop and change. And I think that is genuinely one of the joyful things about health and safety is you can absolutely become an expert in one industry and drill down to the absolute minutiae, and be able to know that industry inside and out, or you can be a really, really great generalist. And you also don't need to decide that at any point in your career. You can delve deeper or you can broaden out. And that's what that's why health and safety has always kept me interested and kept me learning.
We should put you on a promo for new members into the health and safety industry. Okay, let's take another question from a member. Why is membership dropping? I don't know if it is, but what is IOSH doing to control this?
I don't think membership is dropping.
No.
So I think when I joined, we were around 47,000, 48,000.
Pushing 50 now?
Around 50.
Yeah.
Around 50,000 members. I think all membership and professional bodies are having a similar sort of issue. You'll see an awful lot on LinkedIn, particularly in kind of coming into April, where it's like big renewal season, where the conversation around what is in it for me, why do I need to renew, and like for some people it doesn't work, and for some people it absolutely does. I think part of the reason why it probably feels like we're losing a lot of members is over 50% of IOSH's membership is over the age of 50. So in the next 10 to 15 years, half of our membership is going to have retired. On the flip side of it, that means that we need our professional body to continue to engage with members in order for new professionals to come in and to learn from us more experienced ones and not make the same mistakes and learn from the things that we have learned from and continue to make the world a safer and better place for everybody. The word control always makes me laugh because it sounds like IOSH is this kind of Machiavellian kind of puppet mastery thing. And it's not. It's a community of health and safety professionals that have come together to say, one voice is great, 50,000 voices is even better. And I think as IOSH expands, as we, create online communities, I think we will see that membership grow and grow. And IOSH is completely aware that the whole professional body industry is changing and shifting. Generation Z, Generation Alpha don't do things in the same way that millennials and older do. And it is very much a case of adapt or disappear. And I think that is what will be happening. I don't think IOSH is going anywhere.
Absolutely. I hope not.
Me neither.
So the same member's got another question for you. Actually, two more. Why did IOSH feel the need to let anyone be a mentor?
Because anybody can be a mentor. I don't think you need to be older or more experienced in order to be a mentor. For me, mentoring is around enthusiasm, being able to hold space for somebody else, not quite in a wicked, wet sense, and have the ability to inspire. We have a mentoring program and we have a reverse mentoring program. We have so much new technology, AI, new digitalization, which I can never say properly. New tech is coming in all the time. And, the stuff as a millennial where we were brought up with, get off the phone, I need to use the internet, or get off the internet, we need to use the phone. And it's moving so quickly that actually we can absolutely learn from people who are younger than us. Mentoring is also about holding somebody else to account. And there's nothing like that can be anybody. And some people are really great mentors. Some people are not mentors and it's not for them. But that's why we opened it up.
Yeah.
Because, Rick Bates will tell you about one of his best mentors is somebody who's nearly 40 years younger than him.
Wow.
And it's Carly Hughes.
Oh.
And she's one of our future leaders.
Yeah.
And absolutely, because she holds space for him, she holds him to account. She set, they agree kind of timelines and things that he's going to go away and research. And then she goes, what have you done? Have you come back and done it? And it's increasing her confidence and it's also increasing his knowledge. It's an absolute win-win. Some people are better coaches than mentors. But yeah, mentoring is around sharing information and that's what we do as safety professionals.
So do you feel that it's downgraded the system, letting anybody be a mentor?
No, not at all. I think opening it up allows us to recognise that just because somebody's been in this profession for 20, 25, 30 years, 40 years or whatever, doesn't mean that they know everything. Like I said earlier, if I need to go and check something about the Building Safety Act, I will go to somebody else, because that's not something that I deal with every day, and it's something that somebody else will know intimately. I have different mentors for different areas of health and safety. I have coaches for different areas of my life, in the same way that an actor will have an acting coach and a voice coach and a movement coach. Like, you can't get everything from one single person, nor should you be expecting to. If somebody is having an issue with a mentor, if a mentor is not behaving in the way that they should be or is expected of them, there are routes to raise your concerns and to make complaints about somebody else's behaviour, and that absolutely should happen. And also, in the same way that if you go and find a counsellor or a therapist, you're not going to get on with everybody. And sometimes it's a bit of a try it on for size. Does it not work? This person doesn't work for me, but that person does. And I don't think it discredits or diminishes it in any way. I think what it does is it gives us all the ability to recognise that anybody can do it if you've got the skills and the patience and the ability to recognise that actually being a mentor is not necessarily about you imparting your wisdom, but nudging somebody in a certain direction or asking certain questions that will prompt them to go and figure it out.
Yeah, I guess in the traditional sense of it being a mentor, that's probably where this question has come from.
Yeah.
But the way you've described it, it's not so formal.
No, it's not. And you can have a formal mentor where you have a kind of an agreement and you meet very regularly, and you have a bit of an agenda or you have a certain topic and stuff like that. But you can also have it in a very loose way. And one of the guys from the Thames Valley Committee used to hold mentoring sessions, and it would be very informal. And actually, it's making connections, it's joining the dots for some people and going, I don't know the answer to that, but actually let's go and talk to this person because they'll know. And I talk about health and safety being a team sport all the time, because it is. None of us have all of the answers, and none of us should be expected to have all of the answers. And that's one of the great things about IOSH is you can be mentored in that really formal way. You can also do it in a really informal way. But you build this network of people around you who all have fundamentally one thing in common, which is we believe in this profession, we want to do right by it. And by sharing that information and making those connections for people, like it makes all of our jobs easier.
Have you got mentees?
Not at the moment. I'm marginally busy.
I bet you've got a list, though, a waiting list.
There is a bit of a waiting list, which I sometimes find quite uncomfortable.
Quite overwhelming.
Yeah, because I'm like, why do they want to learn from me? Like, it's
because you're the IOSH president.
Yeah, but I'm also just me. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think that's probably that little imposter syndrome, that inner critic that sits there and goes, what do you know? Like, you're just little old you sitting up in, a city in South Yorkshire managing, some leisure centres. Like, that's not a big deal. But yeah, we can absolutely all learn from each other. And I will definitely be opening up as a mentor come kind of maybe January next year. I was going to say the November the 19th after the AGM, but probably going to give myself a little bit of a break before I
You'll also have a few jobs to do as past president, I'm sure.
Yeah, unless you talk to Stuart, where he's just like, nope, see ya.
So we've had a question from a member about the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, between the Board of Certified Safety Professionals in the US and IOSH for certified safety professional holders for IOSH membership. So they've heard that it seems to be on hold or under review. Do you know anything about that? And is IOSH not considering these certified people for membership anymore?
I don't think it's about not considering them for membership. There are definitely conversations happening. I am not necessarily privy to what those conversations are or how far they are progressing, but there is definitely a desire from probably both parties to have that kind of mutual recognition agreement. It makes things an awful lot easier for those of us that are potentially interested in kind of emigrating over there or vice versa. It means that we don't need to start from scratch. But yeah, those conversations are definitely happening. I'm not 100% sure on where they are, but it's absolutely something that is continuing to be talked about.
Oh, that's good news. Is there any hope for a positive outcome regarding it?
Fingers crossed.
Okay, so our next question comes from a retired health and safety advisor for many years, along with being a long-time member of IOSH. So we're going back to membership qualifications now. So after gaining their NEBOSH diploma and then gaining their Tech IOSH later on, they were relinquished of the Tech IOSH status, and this was apparently due to non-fulfillment of CPD.
Okay.
Do you think it's fair to withdraw that accreditation?
So accreditation is the wrong word.
Okay.
If we're going to push back.
Yeah.
So an accreditation is your NEBOSH diploma.
Yeah.
That's a qualification. I did my GCSEs a very long time ago, my A-levels a very long time ago. I still hold those qualifications. They will not be taken away from me because they are a level of achievement and recognition. Membership and that kind of membership level is predicated on completing CPD. You know, IOSH went to membership in, I think it was like 2018. And we agreed as a membership that 30 hours of CPD for a full-time health and safety professional was perfectly reasonable across the course of a year. And actually it's not, I don't find it hard to do.
No, you just watched Ted Lasso.
I just watched Ted Lasso. It's great. Season 4's coming out. That's next year. That's next year's CPD sorted completely. And that approach isn't just about going, right, okay, I've got my qualification, that's it, we're done. It's a bit like learning to drive, yeah? You do your driving lessons, you pass your driving test, you get that little card.
You still can't drive.
You're still learning to drive.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's that whole thing of you take the L plates off and then you learn how to drive. And our profession is changing. Our profession is constantly changing. We've moved further... not further away, but the core of what we do is around managing risk, preventing significant injuries and fatalities. But it's also, we've moved into the well-being space, we've moved into the mental health space, we've moved into occupational health. We are having conversations around climate change and around, psychosocial risks and all of those things. Some of us have environmental and sustainability and security and quality added on to our job descriptions. Like, we're evolving. We have to continue to make sure that we are staying on top of the right legislation and the right guidance, and we're not saying something that was dismissed or proved to be false from like 5 years ago. I suppose it's like when Pluto stopped being a planet. Things change, and in order for us to continue to prove that we are staying on top of the changes, we have to be doing that continual professional development. For some people, they absolutely do face challenges with CPD. People go on maternity leave or parental leave, people drop down to part-time, people change their jobs and their situations change quite significantly.
There might be health issues or
absolutely
really, really stressful job where they don't have the time.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
So reach out to IOSH. Like, the CPD team are absolutely there to help. If you are struggling, they are not going to turn around and go, well, you've not done your 30 hours and it's been a year, so that's it, off you go. Reach out to them, talk to them about the struggles that you're having and the issues that you're having, and they will absolutely support you. Part-time roles don't necessarily require 30 hours, but if you go and talk to the team, they can adjust that. They can make accommodations. IOSH is not IOSH Central they are not this big, scary group of people that want to throw members out for not completing 30 hours. They want to help, but they don't know if we don't tell them. And for our retired members, there is an expectation if you want to continue to use, retireds and your post-nominals, there is an expectation for you to continue that. If you don't want to do that, that is not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's I'm kind of shrugging quite a lot because it's 30 hours is 2 and a bit hours a month. And that could be listening to a podcast. It could be reading a couple of magazine articles. It could be watching a few episodes of, a television show, something that triggers a thought or makes a connection between what you do and how you do it and how that then applies to your role. Like anything can be CPD.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend who plays backgammon, and that's around reading body language and assessing risk and, making calculated decisions. All of that helps him become a better health and safety professional.
I guess it's that kind of industry, actually. It's just sort of living your daily life. You're kind of doing CPD all the time, aren't you?
All the time. I am.
And it's about reflecting on that and what you've learned.
Exactly. And I know there was an initial kind of, it's like 500 words. It's not 500 words, it's 500 characters. And there are things that, so there are like 3 questions that I ask. So what did I do? Why did I do it? How will it benefit me?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes if it's something really quick, it's been a 15-minute, I've read that and that's prompted that thought, I'll write those questions in because then it reduces the character count. But it's still part of that reflective piece. And if you are not reflecting as a health and safety practitioner or professional, you're not going to get any better. You're just going to stay where you are. And actually, we need to get better because we look at the numbers. We just look at the numbers. As a profession, we are at the coalface. We are doing the best we can to directly help the people that we are working with. But 50 people fell to their deaths from height last year.
There's still more to do.
There's still so much more to do. So none of us should be expecting to sit on our laurels and go, I got a qualification, I'm done. That's where the learning starts. Because now it's how do you apply that qualification? How do you apply that knowledge? How do you go and research? Where do you go and find that information? And how do you apply it to make the people that you work with safer and healthier and get to go home at the end of the day?
And that's what I really like about the CPD module, in the sense that it is about reflecting on what you've learned, rather than, like you saying, IOSH Central isn't this big scary monster. You've got to do this. And there's sort of rules and regulations around it. Actually, it's making you a better professional.
Yeah.
Better at your job.
Absolutely.
A better member of the community, of the health and safety community, isn't it?
Absolutely. And formal reflection of formal CPD is a great way of doing that and a great way of evidencing that. Absolutely. Is there a potential that there are easier ways of doing it than having to log on to, a desktop and having to remember to do that on a regular basis? Yeah, but Friday afternoons are sometimes quite quiet. Stick half an hour in, grab a cup of coffee or a beverage of your choice and just sit and reflect on what you've done. I've got a brand new health and safety advisor, and his CPD is going to be full because
Absolutely.
He's learning about swimming pools, he's learning about gyms, he's learning about, outdoor activity centres. All of that is CPD for him because it's new. Going into a new industry is there's a whole heap of learning there, and it is absolutely that reflection. And as an IOSH member, that's part of the reason that it's part of the thing that maintains your membership grade and your membership level. And if you can't do it, go and seek help. There are, I know Rick will occasionally do a coffee morning. So he'll go and sit in a lovely little coffee place in North Wales and just go, come and sit down and do your blueprint with me. Because sometimes it's that actually having somebody else there.
Absolutely, yeah, that's a great idea.
Which is really lovely. And there's little pockets of that happen all over, and not just in the UK, but all over our committees and communities.
Brilliant, thank you. We've got another question from a member here about certain sectors. So why is so little attention given by IOSH to the self-employed, agricultural, fishing and forestry, when they are the sectors year on year that have about the same number of fatalities?
So we do have a consultant community. So I suppose there's two ways of reading that question, isn't there? There's do we focus on self-employed as in self-employed health and safety consultants, which we do have a really active consultancy community that is definitely there. Does an awful lot of stuff, does an awful lot of networking events and kind of webinars and things like that. Self-employed is often very difficult. And if we're talking about I am a solo, scaffolder or, and reaching out to those people can be really difficult as a profession and is something we, continue to want to work on and continue to want to improve. The agricultural side, we have a really great rural industries community. Yeah. They did a phenomenal event, a face-to-face event in North Wales a little while ago, which was very much focused on that kind of agricultural safety, which rumour has it's going to become an annual event now. And that kind of forestry and all of that kind of stuff all sits within that. And one of the benefits of us moving from our kind of more traditional branches and groups and kind of sector groups element and moving those into communities now, is we have the ability with those online communities to create communities that are very, very specific and might not have ever been a traditional sector group or a traditional kind of regional branch or anything like that. But because it becomes online and the more interest and the more people that are involved in those, the more it will grow. Stuart absolutely wants an online community around, female fellows and how we get more women into fellowship. I want to do one for the LGBTQ plus community because, I think that's really important. And, but we could have an online community for, parents or carers or, neurodivergent IOSH members. There are the
opportunities are endless, aren't they?
That is exactly what I was going to say. Yeah. The possibilities with it are absolutely endless, and it gives us so much more flexibility. We were talking an awful lot around it within Mental Health Awareness Week around the importance of community, and community is not just regional now. We have members in 130 different countries, and somebody from across the other side of the world could be a member of my tribe, could be a member of my community. And that's incredibly exciting. And as the online communities grow, there will be absolutely so much more opportunity to do so much more with those.
So would you say to this member that sent this question in, they're obviously in the agricultural industry because they've got an interest in it. Is there support there from IOSH to set one up? Because like you were saying, if somebody sets it up, then it will grow. The people will come.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we do have a rural industry sector group, which is obviously soon to become a community. Get involved.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The information of who is on, who's on the committee for that community will be on the IOSH website. Go and find them on LinkedIn. Roll your sleeves up and absolutely get involved. And if you want, I think I can, the rural industries one, you can absolutely foresee having this, subsection, a community around agriculture and this subsection around fisheries and landscaping and, and all of those things can absolutely offset. It's much more difficult to do that in a non-virtual world.
Of course.
And the more that our members get involved within those different communities, the more that they'll grow and the more people they will find within their own industry and within their own group, and the more we learn from each other.
Absolutely.
And I just think it brings us all together in a really, even though it's virtual and it feels like it distances us, it actually brings us together.
It's the way of the world now, though, isn't it? You know, I see you online more than I see you in person. It's lovely to see you in person. But and some people you've never even met in person. You feel like you know them, don't you?
Oh, completely.
It's just the way.
My first year on council, we didn't meet for, I joined council in November. We didn't meet anybody face to face until the following October. And there was literally the joke of how weird it is to see you in 3D. I thought you'd be taller.
Yes.
And all of that kind of stuff. And, it's, but actually having worked with those people for so long in that kind of virtual environment, you did feel like you knew them. And then seeing them face to face, the following year, it made the following year even better because you know them now. Yeah.
So one member has observed, so we're going back to industry-specific groups. One member has observed that IOSH has 18 industry-specific groups. They'd like to know, is there a group specifically for members working in the automobile industry?
So the short answer to that is no, not at the moment. The longer answer to that is, if you want it, build it.
Yeah.
They will come. and that's the great thing about the online stuff, is it absolutely gives us that flexibility. We don't have an industry specific sector group for the leisure industry at the moment.
There you go. That's
President. I will add that to my list. And that's the thing, is as we move on to those online communities, we're able to create those in a much more flexible and agile way and respond to what our membership needs and what our membership wants. But that also requires our membership to be vocal about it and also roll their sleeves up and get involved.
Okay, so let's talk about the route to chartership. We've had a question from one member who's got more than 20 years experience working in a high hazard coma facility. They have a diploma and all the NEBOSH certificate level qualifications, NEBOSH examiner status, but they're still finding the process to chartership very complicated. So I guess there's a few questions here. How can we make it less complicated? And firstly, I'd like to know, how long did it take you to become chartered?
It took me 11 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't. I wanted my chartership. I wanted my chartership because I wanted that level of kind of assurance that actually I was competent and I was good at what I was doing and the profession that I'd chosen. So yeah, I did the old route. So I didn't do the new route. I did the old route. The evidence, the kind of the portfolio and the evidence requirements were very readily available. I was in a fortunate position that I had started kind of a new job within the last 2 years and had an awful lot of that evidence really readily available. And, don't get me wrong, it was a lot of late nights, a lot of very busy weekends. No, I can't come out and play. I'm doing this. And I put the portfolio together and I submitted it, and there was a little bit of pushback and things went backwards and forwards and it got signed off. And then IOSH said, so you then had a peer interview, which you had to go to the Grange for. And they said it's going to be 3, maybe 4 months. And I was like, no, I am ready. Like, I am ready now. I have my presentation ready. I have obsessively watched the Staffordshire branch's mock peer review interview so many times I think I can probably recite it in my sleep now. Like, I am ready. Give me 24 hours notice and I'll take a cancellation.
Wow.
And that's what I did.
Really? And it happened?
And it happened. And yeah, I think if you're struggling with it, get yourself a mentor. There's so much information there around Blueprint and the new process and what that looks like. Get yourself a mentor that's been through it. Reach out to the team at IOSH and go, I'm really struggling with this. I don't understand. How am I finding this difficult? Like, there are absolutely people out there who will help and will support and will assist. The difficulty is, I suppose, is if you aren't in the position where you can evidence those things, you've either got to go and do it again, or you've got to go and find somewhere where you can find that evidence from. But the support is definitely there. a lot of the communities used to be branches. A lot of them are running, CPD elements or blueprint elements, and and the team within IOSH are more than happy to help. We don't want people to be kind of struggling and finding it really, really exceptionally difficult. Somebody with 20 years experience and a high risk, kind of coma site and stuff like that, like that competence level should
be evident. Yeah.
And it may be that traditional route doesn't work, and therefore we have an alternative route, which is the experiential route, which is a slightly different route to chartership. So if you are struggling with it, just reach out to the CPD team within IOSH and they will be more than happy to help.
Excellent. Great advice. Thank you. We've also had a question on IOSH membership grade advancements. I know there's been some changes recently.
Yeah.
So this member is quite a long one, so bear with me. This member is a construction professional, mainstream college educated with a recognised diploma in construction studies and other related construction disciplines such as fire safety, IOSH managing construction safety, etc. And with almost 30 years experience in the industry, the last 8 years have been focused on health and safety. But IOSH will not recognise their educational degree as an appropriate L6 or L7 qualification to allow any membership upgrade, and may find it difficult to understand why, when operating within a specialised industry where health and safety is embedded, that these level 6 and level 7s are not recognised, as they don't have 80% units on health and safety. Wait for it. They say most IOSH professionals coming into the industry with the required 80% health and safety are green when it comes to identifying the hazards in construction, as they don't have the construction knowledge, which is a lot harder to obtain than the general health and safety knowledge. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's quite difficult to not, without knowing the very specific kind of qualifications, etc., that they've got. My advice to that member would absolutely go and have a look at the experiential.
Yeah.
Because there have been shifts, there have been changes in the qualifications that IOSH recognise, and that's because some of them we can't evidence that they are accredited to the level that we are expecting. The health and safety profession is a profession of care and technical knowledge. And I suppose it goes back to that, you learn to drive, you take your L plates off and then you learn to drive. Having that knowledge and the how to apply it is kind of the slightly more traditional route. Having the application of that knowledge and then going back and getting the qualifications is a route that you can absolutely do. But we have an experiential route now where they will look at your CV, your experience, the qualifications that you've got. And if they don't match that kind of traditional route, there is that experiential route that somebody can take. I don't know much about it. I got mine through, the very traditional route. But I also think that it does take all sorts. It absolutely takes all sorts. We have, there are people who come into this profession much later on in life as kind of second
career,
third, or even fourth careers. Some people come into it because they've had a workplace accident themselves and suddenly go, I don't want anybody else to do this. And have got all of that wealth of knowledge and experience. And then it's how they apply it in the health and safety world. And IOSH totally recognises that. And that's why we have this new route. And I think as that grows and develops as well, and we get more members going through that route, there'll be more knowledge to be able to share around it. But definitely, again, go back to IOSH, go back to membership and CPD, the CPD team, go and have that conversation. Go and book an hour with one of the team and go, this is what I've got. What does that look like? What else do I need for this route? Go and get yourself a mentor. Go and do all of the things that we have available to us within the network and within IOSH membership. And if you're still having difficulties, that at that point, then absolutely come back and we'll have a more in-depth conversation and see what else we can do.
There is another part to their question. They cannot understand how an IOSH Level 6 General Certificate in Occupational Safety and Health isn't recognised in this day and age when it was previously, simply because SQA have changed how they view courses taken by persons outside the UK. If there is no SQA or off-call accreditation, IOSH will only consider NEBOSH International General Certificate if enrolment took place before August 2022 and completed by the following year. Do you know why this decision was made?
IOSH accredited qualifications were reassessed when we looked at kind of the new kind of CPD and the competency framework. And one of the requirements of those accreditations were that they were regulated. And some of them are not regulated in the same way that we would expect. And in order to maintain our professional standards, in order to make sure that people aren't turning up, and I'm not in any way insinuating that this is the reality, but to ensure that people aren't just turning up and then just getting their certificate without having taken the test or somebody else taking it for them, that we need to make sure that those professional standards are upheld. Mm-hmm. That's why we're a professional body. That's why people come to us, to demonstrate their professional competence. So if we can't assess or can't validate the quality of the training and the assessment, we're then potentially compromising IOSH's standards.
And nobody wants that.
No, of course not. It's like, I can't find an analogy. But it's that element of, you don't want somebody else to come in and say, I am a health and safety professional, and give terrible advice. You don't want somebody to come in and go, I've got all of these qualifications, but actually I don't know a thing. I don't know any of it. It's like going back to the driving license, it's like having somebody else take your driving license for you. You do not want to be on the road with somebody who does not know how to drive, because we're all responsible for making sure that we're all doing things in a
and we're all then at risk.
Of course we are.
Yeah.
And when our job is protecting people's lives,
it doesn't get much more serious.
No, of course not. You would not want a surgeon. This is a great one. You would not want a surgeon whose brother took the exams for them. Like, you wouldn't want that in any way, shape or form. And that also applies. So unfortunately, it does mean that some people who are partway through a qualification or kind of learning or have subsequently then, signed up for a qualification that doesn't, match those standards might have lost out. But I hope that they do understand that there is a reason behind it, and that reason is around making sure that our professional standards are protected, and that what we do as a profession is incredibly important. You just have to look at the gentleman who conducted the fire risk assessment for Grenfell.
Yeah,
and actually, you saw through the inquiry that he'd had overinflated his qualifications and his experience and his competence, and people died in a fire that he had essentially said, yeah, it's fine. There's a couple of bits and pieces that need working on, but yeah, it's fine. And that damages all of us.
Mm-hmm.
It damages all of us within our profession, because if we are not reliable, if our advice is not competent, if we are not reliable as a profession and we cannot be trusted, what are we all doing?
Okay, so we'll finish on a couple of questions around membership benefits, if that's okay. This member's asked, to enhance customer satisfaction, one member thinks that IOSH should consider implementing a fast-track option for shipping certificates. The current waiting period of 14 weeks for international deliveries is quite lengthy and could be significantly improved. Do you know if this is possible?
I think it absolutely is possible. I think one of the things that IOSH is looking at the minute is digital certificates, which would be a really great way, really environmentally friendly as well. One of the things that the presidential team do is we also, if we are travelling somewhere and there are certificates at the Grange, we will drop into the Grange or have them posted to us so we can then take them out as well. There are absolutely ways of doing that. The digital certificates, there are questions around how you make sure that they are verifiable, and then, you can't
copy them or
change the name and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, look, we're we're a global organization now, and there is nothing worse than knowing that you've got it, knowing you've got that qualification or you've got that accreditation or that membership level, and you are waiting. I saw something on LinkedIn a little while ago where a member had his membership card sent through to him, and it took 1.5 years.
Wow.
I know.
Royal Mail's fault.
Probably. And that's the thing, is we totally hear that frustration. And it is one of those things that, we are really, really working hard to kind of resolve. And IOSH Central is absolutely looking at different options and the ways that we can make it easier for our international members to get their certificates and their membership cards and all of that kind of stuff. And one of the options is obviously that digital element. Some of it is, some of us literally physically bringing them with us. And yeah, we could.
You're aware.
We're aware. And
yeah.
We're
well, that's good to hear. And I'm sure 1.5 years is an exception rather than.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so let's take a question from another member. We've had a question sent in asking, why is it mandatory to continue to retake tests for CSCS or MSTS qualifications every few years? The need to renew first aid qualifications is understandable.
Mm-hmm.
Medical science develops over time, but CSCS and SMSTS requalification to this member makes absolutely zero difference to what health and safety professionals do, according to this member, who says it's simply appears to be a money-making exercise. Is that the case, and what are your thoughts on it?
So CSCS and CMTS are nothing to do with IOSH. And I think, construction risk shifts and it changes and that focus changes, and, refreshing that knowledge is not necessarily a bad thing. I know that IOSH does a managing construction safely course, and I think there is an agreement across that actually if you have that qualification, which you don't need to renew, that can be used, is my understanding. But yeah, I mean, we don't have control of it. I suppose it gets, it's in a similar way of, keep using the driving thing. In a similar way of when you get to a certain age, you need to renew your driving license every little while. And it's because you're at a higher risk. The construction industry is one of the highest risk industries. It's where almost most of the fatalities, most of the significant injuries are happening, and renewing that, refreshing that kind of risk awareness and that hazard perception is not necessarily a bad thing. One of the big things that we constantly talk about is complacency. And if you are exposed to a high risk all of the time, you get very complacent around it. And actually having that little bit of a reminder every 2-5 years is not necessarily a bad thing.
And also, you don't take the same test 2-3 times,
no,
and only take the same things from it, do you?
Absolutely. I know that from a while ago with the CSCS card, there is a pool of questions that they pick from, but you're never going to get the same question. You're potentially never going to get the same questions twice. And you're always going to learn something else, or something different might resonate with you. And refreshing that knowledge is never a bad thing. We spend an awful lot of time in health and safety training talking about refresher training. Manual handling, the tools and the way that we manually handle hasn't fundamentally changed, but we still refresh that knowledge. First aid, absolutely. What I was taught in my very first aid course versus what I was taught like in the middle of it versus what I was taught last year, completely different. Things change. The way that we deal with risk changes. And I would suggest to that member that maybe they need to go and talk to CSCS rather than us.
Okay, so let's take another question. This one is about global qualifications. So how can we enhance the recognition and awareness of IOSH accredited courses in Asia where these qualifications are not widely acknowledged?
So We are as we increase our membership and as we increase our global presence, we are working with more and more educational systems across the world, and that gives us a really consistent approach to making sure that we're addressing the profession as a whole and across the world. I know that IOSH is currently working with institutions in like Hong Kong, in Singapore, in Malaysia, where we've got really strong relationships. One of the biggest networks of health and IOSH members outside of the UK and GCC is in Singapore, and that will, the strength and numbers that we have will absolutely increase those relationships and that recognition. We're still only in 130 countries. We've still got plenty to go. And I think as we continue to grow in that membership, that membership presence continues to move into different countries, it is that continuing conversation that needs to happen. There is absolutely, but it goes back to that element around making sure that things are accredited and they are regulated, and we are making sure that people who wear the IOSH badge are at that standard of profession, and that have that kind of that ongoing competence and that ongoing commitment to our profession and making everything safer. And I think that is always going to be an ongoing conversation. If I had a magic wand, I would absolutely let's sort it all out. Let's get those recognitions done now. But it is a process, and it is a process that you have to go through in order to ensure that people who are gaining those qualifications from those institutions are at the level that is expected and maintain that standard that we need.
Like you said earlier, for the benefit of the entire profession.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this member has asked, why did IOSH decide to discontinue recognition of the NEBOSH certificate for Tech IOSH accreditation? The course is the same, so no lesser qualification. It sounds like IOSH are throwing their toys out of the pram. Their words, not mine. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I find it really amusing that this sounds really awful. I do find it really amusing that people think that IOSH has enough time to throw our toys out the pram over a qualification. Where, IOSH are far too busy trying to make sure that everybody gets to go at the end of every day, really. I think my understanding is that the NEBOSH General Certificate is still there, and still available. But again, it goes back to, where are you doing it? And is the institution or is the delivery that the route that you're taking to gain that qualification, is that accredited? Is that regulated? If it's not regulated, there is an absolute reason why we've probably not continued that. And it's down to that element of, we have to maintain a professional standard. There is absolutely an expectation, which is entirely fair and entirely understandable. I don't know, if that decision has been made, that it will have absolutely been done with checks and balances to provide all of us that reassurance. IOSH and NEBOSH work really closely together, which sounds really strange because you feel like we should be in competition.
Yeah.
But we're not in competition. We're all driving towards the same thing. We all want the same goal in the same way, Dee, who's their, chief executive.
She's fab.
Oh, she's amazing. And then you've got Rosie, who's the president of IIRSM. Like, we all want the same thing, and we all want our profession to be, have the backup of qualifications that are rigorously, accredited and regulated, and that they come up to a standard, because we're in the business of saving lives. We're going out to make sure that people get to go home, and we all want that goal. We may come at it from slightly different perspectives. But yeah, I mean, look, we're not don't think we are throwing our toys out the pram.
You're maintaining standards.
We're maintaining a standard, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, absolutely. Okay, so finally, we've got a scenario for you to advise on. One of our members has been subjected to unfair dismissal for blowing the whistle internally with an employer for breach of health and safety law. The IOSH technical support line and legal advice line were of some use at the start of this process. However, soon steps to resolve this went beyond their ability to support. Are there any plans to expand IOSH support to members or non-members in these sorts of situations?
So non-members, possibly not, because part of the benefit of being a member of IOSH is that you do get that kind of technical support and that legal support as well. I know that they are in the process of reviewing member benefits at the moment. And, I think we probably do that pretty much almost every year to kind of look at what the membership needs from us. And, any additional support or anything that we can give our membership as a collective is vitally important. Things around whistleblowing and, particularly when you're reporting your own employer for breaches of health and safety law, getting that support, getting that advice, whether it is from the technical line from IOSH or whether it is from, a whistleblowing, lawyer or the solicitors, or there are other places to get that support and advice as well. We continually review what we do for our members, and not everybody, maybe people don't even know that we have a technical line or have that kind of support that is available. And it may well have got to the point where it was, considerably outside of the scope of what that line could offer. I don't think it means that, it was bad.
No.
Potentially not bad advice, or potentially not just out of the scope of what they could further advise without potentially getting themselves into kind of legal muddy waters as well. But yeah, we continually address, we have the membership surveys that come out, every few years. There is a number of the IOSH members who, very much have a direct line into the presidential team and into council. And if our membership is telling us that this is something that they need and they want from us, like, bring it up with our council members, raise it with the presidential team. We are part of the governance structure that allows us to talk to the board and through the board directly to the senior leadership team and say that we should be looking at that. We need to be looking at something. And it may be that they, IOSH Central turns around and says, no, not yet. And, things do sometimes take a little bit of time. But yeah, if it's something that our membership really, really wants, like, come and tell us.
Yeah.
We don't have there are 50,000 of us. We don't have a crystal ball unfortunately, I haven't yet passed my mind reading lessons yet. We don't know what everybody wants from us or expects from us. And you've got a number of routes, haven't you? You can either sit there and complain loudly. You can do something about it, and there are absolutely routes in to be able to do something about it. Or you can come and get involved.
Yeah.
Come and get involved and raise it. And, there are lots of opportunities for you to be able to do that. And, and I think the membership is absolutely at the heart of the decisions that IOSH makes. I'm privileged enough to sit in board meetings where, as chair of council, my voice is heard, our opinion is heard, and that membership at the heart of it is absolutely central. I have meetings with, Vanessa, our CEO, and Ruth, our new chair of the board, and when we talk about what it is that members want and what members are telling me and the presidential team and council and through to our community committees, which is still a mouthful for me to say.
You've done really well.
We have these conduits, so absolutely make use of them. shouting about it on LinkedIn or social media is not necessarily going to get what you want. Like, there are routes in, and I find that some of our members forget that I am also a volunteer and I am also a member, and the presidential team and the council are all volunteers, and they are also members, and they care very passionately, not just about IOSH and the decisions that they're making and the strategic direction that they're taking, but what our members need and what they want and expect from us as an institution. But we're not mind readers.
So there you've had it. From the IOSH president, get involved. If you want to make a change, get involved. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kelly. It's been brilliant speaking to you about membership and qualifications. I hope it hasn't scared you off and you will come back for another episode.
Absolutely not. I mean, the reason we didn't Ask Me Anything was because we wanted Ask Me Anything, and I wanted those challenging questions. So absolutely looking forward to the next one.